Aggie
Welcome,
Facts.
college football fans, to a new edition of sports. This is the Aggie Facts with your boy Walter B. We are here to talk about, you guessed it, the Aggies. The Aggies of Texas A&M. I mean, what more can we say about this weekend? I am over here tired, stressed out, frustrated, because they can make it that way. But as I sit down and I contemplate on how the weekend went, I already had my concerns. It's just as like every other A&M fan and every college football fan out there. Everybody's like, the Aggies are overrated. They're number 6 in the country. Yeah, we have a talented roster, but I feel like coming in preseason hype, I do not feel like we should have been ranked as high, especially ending the season on 8-4. But it's the fact that we had the talent coming back. We had certain experienced players. We recruited very well, as we brought in the number 1 class in the history of college football. But when you go back and you look at the first week against Sam Houston State, we struggled with consistency, and that fell over into the week of Appalachian State. I knew going into this game that if we were not able to run the ball efficiently, even throw the ball efficiently, and make plays when they need to be made, App State was going to give us fits. This is not a team that you can just sleep on. App State has a strong resume. They're very well coached. As you saw in that game, they're undersized, but they play to their ability. They play with heart, and they play to their strengths. They're small. They run a lot of stretch plays. But today, they manned up and they hit the Aggies in the mouth. They ran the ball straight down their throat. But defense did very well. They did what they were supposed to. Anytime you keep a team on the field for 40 minutes defensively, they're tired. For the Aggies to only have given up 17 points in a game where they're on the field almost the entire 60 minutes, I take my hat off to the defense. DJ Durkin, you did very well, but I feel like you should have put in a lot more blitz packages. Gave Chase Bryce more pressure on those edges. Close him in the pocket. Have a spy on him at linebacker. DB's phenomenal job. The guy only passed for 134. They had a little bit over 300 yards total offense, and that's hard to contain in this day and age in football. Now, I give praise to the defense, but as a collective, as a total team, it was disappointing because offensively, there should have been changes made. At halftime, I say even after first quarter going into the second quarter, I feel like Max Johnson should have come in and at least try to give a spark, a change of pace, something that App State did not see coming. But the play calling was basic. We fumbled or we missed. We were just immature when it came to plays on the field. I mean, bad snaps, bad handoffs, bad reads, bad passing, bad pass block, bad run blocking. It was just a list of things that could not get going. They couldn't get a rhythm going at all. And I would say that even though it's App State, like I said, these guys played lights out. They were dogs on the field. When you put together an offensive strategy like they did to hold the ball from a Power 5 school for 40 minutes, that's a heck of an accomplishment, especially because they're a pass-happy team. They put up 60 points against North Carolina last week. And they didn't think that was about to happen here in Aguilar. I knew it wasn't going to happen. But for them to control the ball the way they did, I have to give my hat off to Coach Hall and the App State team. Jimbo, it's you got to do better, man. It's that frustrating. I know it's frustrating. You're trying to give Haynes King a chance, but I just don't feel like it's his time. I don't feel like he's the fit for this scheme, not your scheme. He's better suited for another scheme. I can see the frustration in his face when he gets a bad play, but this is 2 weeks into the season, He had a chance last year. He had time to get prepared for these two games a year ago, whether it was mentally and physically. And he's pretty much starting where he left off. 3 picks with Kent State, and then he couldn't even get going with Colorado before he gets injured. So now, here we are in App State, can't get right. So at this point, I feel like it's time to make a shift. Maybe it'll make him better seeing another QB in there and they get the fire up on him. Offensively, there has to be a fire. The competition has to change in practice. I don't feel like, as a collective, the whole offensive coaching staff was just bad. It's very hard to get something going. Like, even trying to smash mouth it. They got a few good plays with Devon A-Chain, but when you look at how many yards he got total rushing the football, he got 60-something yards on 10 carries. Yeah, it looked good. One of them was broke for a 26-yard touchdown. So his average is going to go up higher. But other than that, A-Chain didn't really get a lot of yards after contact in most of those carries prior to that. No, it wasn't like that. It was hard-nosed football. App State did a great job defensively against this Aggies unit. If you go back and you watch the game, you'll understand what I'm saying. Offensively, when we did get going, we had a fumble. Evan Stewart, he tried to get more yards. He tried to get the first down instead of just falling. Those are freshman mistakes. And I'm glad he's getting them out now instead of later in the season. You know, because that can really hurt a team. I'm glad that they lost now in the front because, you know what? This session is Aggies Fate. They can either be 1-4 going into the Alabama game, or they could be 4-1 going into the Alabama game. If I said that right, just help me out. They can either go 1-4 going into Alabama, or they can go 4-1 going into Alabama. And I feel like this game here is a make or break. It's either gonna make this team come together and say, hey, we need to get our stuff together, or they could just sit back and they can just act like kids and be like, oh, we'll get them next year. And it doesn't eventually go that way, because if this season goes downhill, I believe there's a lot of changes that are going to be made at Aggie Land. And judging by that fan base, the alumni, the boosters, everybody, they're already feeling the pressure and the heat right now. I don't know why there's so much hate and animosity towards the Aggies, as far as them being a team that can always come up every year and step on the scene. Everybody thinks that they're always overrated. They're extremely average. They're, this average team, they were average in the Big 12. They're going to be average in the SEC. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But what team besides Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, and possibly Georgia stay on top of their conference every year, or always in the top 10 every year? Notre Dame, but they always fall off. Michigan hasn't been heard of. The Aggies really don't ever stay in the top 10. So why is it that they have to always be extremely average? Because people give them hype. They give them hope. Isn't that what college football is about? I really want you guys' comments, because I'm going to start taking you guys' comments, and I'm going to post a video and a response every week, starting from today. Okay? So, like I said, I can give you a history lesson. Since, let's say, 1980, the Longhorns and the Aggies are 16-16 against each other out of 40 years of football. Okay, that's why it's so. You can go back and look at the series and all that. Yeah, Texas is up, but in the past 40 years, they are dead even with the Aggies and the Longhorns are at 16 wins and 16 losses apiece. Texas having the last win coming in the last meeting in 2012. Well, 2011 going into 2012. So, being in the Big 12, yeah, they won the conference in 1998. But then there there was years over about 2 decades of mediocrity because you lost a long-term coach in R.C. Slocum. R.C. Slocum was on his years going down, and to bring in, I would actually put that fault on the Aggies front office, the president, and the boosters. You went and got Franchone, who had one great year at Alabama. No, that doesn't make a great coach. Then you brought in Richard Sherman, who had NFL experience and started to change the culture, but he couldn't get it turned around in time. There was no talent. The talent that the Aggies have had was back in probably the 80s, early 90s. And then winning that conference championship. But after that, it just became a dead spot of talent as far as what the Aggies could be every year. You look at going back in the years where we would beat a team that's number one, like Oklahoma, and then the next year we lose 77-0. We had a few years like that where we would beat a team and then they come back and just dog us because the talent level was not there, the coaching was not there, the preparation was not there. And I don't put that on anybody but the coaching and the school. I mean, you can't sit there and be like, oh, it's going to be great, especially when you lost all your experience the year prior. No. And being in the SEC, they've had more success in the SEC than they've ever had in the Big 12 in all those years. The Aggies are 76 and like almost 42. 76 wins, almost 80 wins, and 42 losses within those years. And like they said on Saturday, there's only been, within these past, 10 years, there's only a few schools that have up to 80 wins. The Aggies are almost there. But they're 76 and like 42. I'm sorry, I have to go back and check those. But the difference in the win and loss column is huge. That's like a 30-game stretch. When they were in the Big 12, they were like 112 wins to like 86 losses. I'm sorry, don't quote me on this isn't exact, but I know there was only a 19-game difference between win and losses there. They had 19 more wins than they had losses in the Big 12 leading up, coming into the SEC. And they were in the Big 12 for 16 years. So please help me understand why a team can't resurrect themselves coming in college football. Y'all give A&M a hard time, but y'all have a hard time not remembering the Nebraskas, the Floridas, the Tennessees. Nobody gets criticized more than Texas A&M. And I'm trying to figure out why. These teams, these former teams, these top dogs have championships. A&M doesn't have a championship within anybody being alive. So I'm trying to figure out, why is there so much hate and animosity towards them? Please help me figure this out. Nobody's talked about Tennessee, UCLA, USC. Like I said, Nebraska, Florida. Help me if I'm missing somebody. Michigan. It just doesn't make sense. Miami. That's a big top dog. We played them this week. I feel like this. This is my opinion. I feel like if A&M beats Miami, that's going to change the narrative. And if they beat them bad, it's going to really change the narrative. Oh, they are serious. Well, maybe this was a turnaround game. Yes, it's going to be a turnaround. It's going to be a wake-up call. Because last week was the Aggies' wake-up call. And like I said, this is going to choose their faith. It can either help them or hurt them. And these are a lot of young guys. I feel like this year is not a complete waste. They could actually still have a chance to make it to the CFP, but in judging what I just saw, no. They will be an average team if they continue to play like that. But if they step it up and they put them wins on the board, yeah, they'll definitely be in the CFP. I feel like App State is a big enough team to be, as far as what I've seen in 2 weeks, App State can definitely be in the CFP. That loss at North Carolina, that shouldn't have happened. The same guy that dropped that pass That 2-point conversion is the same guy who dropped the pass. It actually could have been 21-14 against A&M. But he dropped the pass and they got a field goal. The all-around play for the A&M players was terrible. Special teams throughout. The only bright spots was the kick return from Devon A. Chain, but we can't rely on that. We cannot rely on that. And then you had one breakaway play from Devon A. Chain, but that's when you actually got one rhythm going. And you should have fed off of that coming back. But the poise and the reading, the Haynes King is just unbalanced. So my prediction is that this week against Miami, A&M comes back strong. They are either going to win by 3, a field goal, or it's going to be a very close game. If Miami gets by, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm going to tell you this. If A&M's offense doesn't get going, I think we have a slight edge. But I think this is going to be a pickup game. Like, this is going to be a game where the Aggies wake up and realize, like, hey, man, we got the talent. Last week, it was a fluke. It was a punch in the mouth. Okay, now it's time to get going, guys. So, y'all tell me what you think. That's my prediction. I'll see you next time. This is your host, Walter B. Ag Facts. Peace.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe.